Good morning. Happy Friday, everyone. Welcome back to another lovely episode of Maker That Money, the podcast where we talk about turning your hobby into your jobby. I am one of your co-hosts, Pooch of Repkord. With me, as always, Mr. Andrew Mayhall of 3D Gloop. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Pooch. How are you?
I am well. Thank you, my friend. And today on the pod, we have Mr. Grant Posner, founder and owner of 3D Musketeers out of beautiful sunny Florida. How are you this morning, Mr. Grant?
I'm doing wonderful, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. I'm really excited. I feel like we've been trying to connect on this topic for a while. Like, I know you are a master of 3D scanning, and we are going to get into all things 3D scanning in just a little bit. But before we do that, we got to handle all of our usual things. So first of all, greetings to all of our people joining us in YouTube land on the chat. We record this podcast live on YouTube just about every Friday on YouTube at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern, noon Eastern. And if you like what you're hearing or you have comments and questions for us, that's a great way to interact with the pod. We also have the option for the Maker That Money hotline. The link to that is above me. That's repkord.com/MTM hotline. If you want to call in with your questions and comments, please feel free to do that as well. As always, we appreciate a like, a subscribe. We have all of our Twitter. We're all tweeter extraordinaires out there. And so we appreciate interaction that way. If you guys want to give us feedback, Tweeter. I don't know. What do you want to call it?
Something else. I don't know what though.
We all are prolific tweeters. We like to tweet.
Yes.
How about that? And that's a great way to send us feedback and interact as well. Yes, without further ado, the subject at hand today: making that money as a 3D scanning business. Now, I know, Grant, this is not your only source of revenue. You guys do print farming and you do other things as well. But since I've known you, I hear a lot of jobs have come in where you're doing some pretty high-end, pretty professional gigs in the field of 3D scanning. Would you say that you're getting to be a pro at it?
I think when you spend the kind of money that we've spent, you at least have to call yourself a pro. Whether or not that's true, that's kind of up to the people.
I gotcha. Okay. Nice. All right. So we're going to dig in. But before we do, we got one more piece of business we got to handle, and that's being the positive people that we are. We always like to talk about our wins for the week. But we're going to do a little different this week. I'm going to go first. Give Grant a little bit of time to think about his, and maybe Andrew will have something. I'm gonna like, it can't be about retail packaging. I'm giving you a criteria. You have to come up with another win because you can't keep using the same win. My win for the week is organizationally based. I am really proud of myself. I cleaned out my garage, which I'm super happy about. That we just offloaded a bunch of things, just threw it all in the back of the car, took it down to the local Goodwill and gave it away. That is not easy for me. I hold on to things a lot longer than I want to. There was a lot of probably monetary value and stuff like that, but I just don't have the patience and I don't have the patience to post things on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace and deal with the stuff that comes from that. And then I did a little clean out of the shop as well. I finally found a home for all these pallets that have been piling up that we use for, shipping out wholesale and stuff like that. And they were awkward. And I kept just throwing them in a corner and ignoring the problem. And finally I said, I'm going to find a home for these. So organizational wins are good, soothing wins, in my opinion. I don't know how it feels for you guys, but it makes me get into a better mental place. So I'm going to take 100%. Win for the week.
Nice.
Grant, you are up, my friend. What is your win or wins for the week?
So we did a really awesome scan yesterday. So we've been working with an individual who their daughter has a disability, and we've been making custom orthotics and custom braces for this child. And traditionally, you're looking at $15 to $20,000 every single time you need it done. And, because insurance is, of course, not going to pay for it because it's not medically necessary. We can scan it with the Artec Eva here and
Eva.
get it all done in a week for like a tenth, way less than a tenth, like a 50th of the price. We do like
Wow.
$250 for that whole thing. I'm not looking to make a ton of money on those jobs, but those are the feel good jobs where we're able to give somebody their life back. And the kid's
Wow.
10 years old, they're growing like a freaking weed.
Right.
So we have to do these
Mhm.
all the time. And the mom was on a 3-month plan every 3 months, but now they're on every month to get the kid scanned and get a new brace. So um,
Wow.
that's all good. We love that kind of work. So that's my big win for the week. It is always a lot of fun to be able to do that stuff where it's not always about the money. It's about the feel good that you get. You'll make a little bit of money, not a ton,
Right.
but it's about knowing that you gave someone a better quality of life.
Yeah, and if you can do both at the same time, win-win, right? That's awesome.
That's fair.
Nice.
All right, Mr. Gloop, you are up. Well, what is get some harnessed good energy, some good juju, good vibes for you this week?
So, this week it started off really rough.
Oh, okay.
Really, really rough. But things picked back up. We were able to, turn some bad things into hopefully some better things. So I think, generally the win is just learning to just be as optimistic as you can when faced with a lot of problems, and know that you'll find a way out somehow, some way, as long as you keep working the problem.
Amen to that. That is
I don't have a specific piece that I can share, but just in general, when you deal with a lot of sucky things, just try your best to stay positive, even though it sucks a ton.
Yeah.
I like to say
So,
sometimes winning is just getting to tomorrow, right? And so
mhm.
you got the benefit of when you start the week terribly, there's nowhere to go but up. So you're probably feeling really great as compared to where you were at the beginning of the week. So that's a
Yeah,
win. Uh,
yeah.
Hello to everybody in the chat. Shout out to a couple people. Some of the usuals: Mike, David, Courtney, Mitch. Good to see everybody. Maple Leaf Makers. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Tell us your wins in the chat. We love hearing yours. Maybe I'll pick one to share in a little bit. But we'll take a pause from the wins for the moment, and let's dive in on the meat and potatoes. So Grant, I didn't really give you the opportunity to do the elevator pitch for your business, who you are, who's your daddy, and what does he do.
Oh, I mean, my dad, you can meet him because every Father's Day he comes on our podcast. So if you want to meet my dad and learn about what he does, you can go
And you
check
just
out
had
those
your mom
episodes.
on like
We just had
last week because it was Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to the moms out there.
the first time my mother's ever been on the YouTube channel, and she said when we hit 10,000 subscribers, she'll come on.
You
And
did a mom reveal at 10,000 subscribers. I like that.
Well, no, we're at 30. We actually hit 33,333 last night. So,
Oh, nice.
Nice number.
it's just I said I had screenshot. That's all threes, right? It's a third of the way to 100K.
All right.
But mom, she was so nervous, but she killed it. She did a great job. But no, 3D Musketeers, we make stuff. You guys know this. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go click in the description to find the link to it. Go over and subscribe. We talk about 3D printing, 3D scanning, and we do it for clients all over the world, ranging from the Smithsonian to Snoop Dogg and everything in between.
That's an eclectic mix.
Yeah, I like it. It's the two S's, right? Got that good alliteration there.
Nice.
And literally, we've traveled all over the United States, scanning professional sports teams and doing some really fun products that I unfortunately can talk very little about, if at all.
Ooh, mysterious. Courtney in the chat says your mom totally killed it. That's awesome.
She did do a good job.
David Tobin, good to see you, my friend, sharing his win for the week. I learned how to take a QR image and convert it into an STL and printed it. So that's really fun. That's cool.
Printed QR codes are awesome.
Those are super handy. I've seen a lot of people use those for displays at shows, and it just like it's cool. It adds something dynamic, that's not just printed on a piece of paper. So that's a good one, David. Awesome. Good share there. Chris Perillo's in the chat. Awesome to see you, Chris. He says it's too early for shouting. I think maybe I don't have my levels right again. I thought we were good, but maybe I was just getting overly excited and got too close to the mic. Sorry.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyway, excellent synopsis of who 3D Musketeers are. I realized last night in your promo video, I totally spelled Musketeers wrong.
Did you?
Oh,
and
no.
Thankfully, nobody called me out on it.
I didn't notice it.
I don't know why I want to throw an A. Muscat.
Everybody does. We
Muscat.
actually own both domains because people want to put an A on it.
I know it, and I still do it.
It is the most
That's
common.
hilarious.
It's a massive problem that we have with spelling. So I say there are no E's in Musketeers. It is
Yeah.
like it's like the older firearm, not deer poop in the woods. Okay, so like that's the way to think about it. Scat, right?
Scat.
Deer-
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Musket.
So musket.
Musket.
Tears.
It's a musket. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Which was weird because none of them carried muskets. They were all
No.
swordsmen. So what's
Yes.
up with
Yep.
that? Never occurred to me.
It was look. The idea of the name came from my dad. There were 3 of us that started this company, and one of them decided a day job was a much safer option, which it is, right? You know, going
Mhm.
from that hobby to jobby means that for a little bit you're gonna not pay yourself because you're taking a jump, right, to make it all happen. Sometimes you can start and get that money off the gate, and if you can, I'm happy for you, but we were not able to. We had to kind of go all in or none at all if you're going to do it in any meaningful way. And he decided that the average 9 to 5 was better for him. My brother is still a co-owner of the business, but he does have a day job where he works for Hillsborough County Fire Rescue. So
okay, so
that's
it's a
his thing.
family. It's a family affair. I don't know if I realized that. That's cool.
Yeah, he's a silent partner. He doesn't do too much. He's been on a couple of podcasts. He's been in live streams before. But I do run the day-to-day. He makes sure that we are on the IT side incredibly secure. We are ITAR level 2 certified. So
Wow.
we like I said, we do a lot of cool things I can't talk about, but he makes sure that we are compliant with all the rules and regs that we need to be. So he actually does an amazing job on the C-suite team of the company.
Nice. Well, it sounds cool. Well, today we're going to talk about hopefully stuff that you can share some good details on, because I think there's a lot of curiosity, especially moving forward in the world of I know we talk about 3D printing a lot and making and stuff like that, but your tool set in 3D scanning, I keep arguing, I think is going to be one of the factors, whether, what its final form looks like. I don't know what the final form, but what its ultimate form is going to look like in the future, it's potentially a linchpin for bringing more people into the space, right? Because any opportunity you have to basically take away that prerequisite of having to have CAD skills potentially in order to get involved using some of these tool sets that we do with 3D printing, with machining, with any of these things, you're looking at the input side of things, right? So historically, if you say you have a part that you can't go just and buy a replacement part for or something like that, you would have to have some CAD skills. You measure maybe and you'd have to learn how to draft it up, and then you take it through a process to either have it machined or 3D printed or whatever you wanted to do. 3D scanning, similar to two-dimensional scanning, is a way of like bringing that material in and hopefully alleviating a lot of the need to have those skills and do that work. But
exactly,
as we well know, it is an imperfect system still, and I want to get into some of the challenges, but obviously some of the value you talked about in the teaser, how expensive a lot of this equipment is, and so that makes it cost prohibitive.
It is, yeah.
Obviously, there's a huge gamut of quality and types of scanners and technology that can be used. So I know you've handled a lot of those things. You've experienced the entire workflow, right, from doing the scan yourself. Last year at IRF, you did a full body scan of me using that actual scanner.
Yep, this exact same scanner, the Artec Eva.
And why don't we start with that? That's an expensive scanner.
It is,
and what does that afford you? Like, give us the overview for anybody that doesn't know scanning. Like,
sure.
why does somebody want to drop that kind of money on this capability versus like a Revo Point, consumer grade, or using photogrammetry or any of the other tricks of the trade? I know photogrammetry isn't technically scanning, but I don't know.
I mean, it can be, right? Photogrammetry, you can build a point cloud out of it. And that's complicated software. Agisoft PhotoScan is the premier software for doing photogrammetry. I know that Polycam is trying to really kind of unhinge Agisoft, and I want to work with Polycam to compare the two because I think it would be really, really cool to do. I have a copy of Agisoft because it was what everybody used.
Right.
When you would have an array of 60 plus DSLR cameras that you would have to trigger all at the same time, sending over a terabyte.
Pricey. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And don't forget, it takes like 3 days to disassemble it, set it up, calibrate it, and then to get it running. But the benefit is done.
Yeah.
You're talking 5 seconds per person. So if you're, if you are like a con scanner and you want to go out and scan people at conventions, these handheld scanners, while they're crazy portable, this one normally sits in a Pelican case. And if you saw me at the East Coast Rep Festival, I was carrying a Pelican case with me. It had this in it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so
it's man portable.
That's a nice thing. I can literally set it down. Yeah. Totally man portable. I don't need anybody else to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. Generic individual portable, right?
Sure.
And those big arrays, while they're faster, require a whole team, multiple computers, and making sure the cameras are triggering correctly. But we chose Artec specifically because they are a software company that also happens to make hardware. And what you'll find, and I love RevoPoint, Thunk 3D. There's a few others coming out of mainland China that I have my eye on for. These could actually, if they did well on their software, completely unseat Artec as being kind of the top dog for 3D scanners at the moment. And RevoPoint happens to be one of the top contenders in my opinion, because they are kind of at the forefront of the the influencers, content creators. A lot of us have gotten their scanners. Like I had a RevoPoint range like 4 months before they started shipping Kickstarter units because they wanted my opinion as someone that owns. I own over $130,000 of retail price scanners at this point. We have over a dozen scanners. Yeah, I mean this one is 20. We have an Artec Spider that's 25, and we have an Artec Ray that is $60,000. So you're looking at over $100,000 in just those three.
That's a big.
And then there's
that's
like
a big investment for any company, and that's just one aspect of what you guys do. So that's really interesting. But give us go a little deeper, if you wouldn't mind, on the process, the workflow, some of the options out there, and finish. Let's again to try to stay focused, like on that Artec, that Eva that you have there. Is that your current like go-to, just in terms of like bang for your buck, quality, portability, workflow, or is it a right tool for the right job?
It is very much a right tool for the right job, and I would argue that it's not as necessary as it used to be, right? The Shining 3D Einstar at $900, while you need a computer with way more RAM than my scanning laptop. My scanning laptop can handle this scanner, no problem. It can't handle a $900 Einstar. If you have a laptop that can, that scanner is really good. The RevoPoint range, really good. A lot of scanners from Shining 3D are going to be really good. So if you want something that is very much scan, click, print, the closest you're going to get right now is going to come from Artec, or it's going to come from Peel 3D at a reasonable price. Peel 3D is the lower end side of Creaform, and Creaform makes metrology scanners that are good to like 5 microns, right? They have when you go to say, well, how much is this? It says, oh, request a quote, which is if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
So talk about what a reasonable price means, because that's totally different for different people. Like
so 20,000 and under, to me, if you're looking to do it for a business, you should have a budget of at least 20,000. And when it comes to Artec, don't forget, there's a software component too that's $1,200 a year. In fact, in 3 days, on the 22nd, I have to renew my license. $1,200. Yeah,
bucks. Wow.
So it's $100 a month just to own the scanner, and that's before you look at needing get these certified. Now the EVA, because it doesn't have any moving parts, they want you to recertify it every 18 months for the low price of $2,500. But I'm not
Oh my
going to do
goodness.
that because I don't care. These are not certifiable scanners. The Ray,
What does
my
that
RTech
mean?
Ray,
What is
it means
certifiable?
it doesn't have a calibration standard.
Okay.
So it
Okay.
is accurate to X amount, give or take.
Okay.
The RTech Ray is accurate at certain distances to exact numbers, and it comes with a piece of paper that certifies that it is, and that is an insurable thing. I can actually insure the certification around the machine itself. But the
So
RTech
there-
Oh,
Ray is
okay.
a
So there's
So-
applications then where clearly that's a mission
Yeah.
critical. You need that level of detail.
Mhm.
Andrew, you were going to
Yeah.
ask about something about that?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I was going to go with that. So in those cases, you're picking the scanner, right, for the specific job that you're doing, where you need that sort of
Yeah.
detail, and then a traceability certificate of some sort saying we know that this is accurate information.
And with the Ray being long range LiDAR, so if you have a new
Mhm.
iPhone, you have LiDAR, right? If you use Polycam with an iPhone, you've likely used the LiDAR bit of it. Your LiDAR is good to like 3 millimeters at 1 meter away. The
Okay.
RTech Ray, my Ray, is certified to 11.7 millimeters at 110 meters away.
Oh,
you
wow.
can scan from that far away?
110-meter radius from the scanner.
I mean, that's
And it is
not
accurate
an
to
actual
less than half an inch.
use case, though, is it? I mean, how would you
Oh,
be?
yeah.
You can
Architectural.
long distance scan like that?
Architectural, okay.
Interesting.
Architecture, site plans, accident sites. That's one of the big uses for it that we do. Is I
Okay.
can take it out to an active accident scene, scan the entire thing, use the EVA to get the stuff that the Ray misses on its first or second pass, and we can recreate those cars, and they're used in court cases, right? So the picture's worth
Oh.
1,000 words. How much is putting a model of the actual vehicle in front of the jury? You can't hand things to a jury. That's not allowed, but you could put it in front of them. It's all about telling that story. And that's what we are storytellers. That's what we are as a company.
Ah.
Whether it's on YouTube or it's helping you tell your story, it's all about that storytelling. And I think that's where 3D scanners come in for us, is it is about that storytelling. So
That's a really interesting use case. I hadn't considered. Environmental recreation for legal and honestly, I can imagine there can be potentially some good money in that. I remember meeting somebody years ago who was actually doing that with CAD skills, where they were like they would
Yep.
read through reports and then they would try to recreate the scene by like drafting up these things. You're taking it to the next level where it's like you're going out to a physical scene, assuming that the scene can be preserved long enough for the scan to even happen.
yeah, if we're being called out there, it's either we're talking loss of life or very close to it, right? So where
Ah.
they are spending hours investigating it, so it's fine for us to come out and spend 2 hours to do our scans. Otherwise, we go to the junkyards or to the impound lots where the vehicles will sit, and we scan the vehicles that way. So that is part of the business that we do. I can talk about that we do it, but generally the jobs that we do have a 5-year non-disclosure on it. Even when the docket becomes publicly available, unless we are listed in the docket, we have a 5-year non-disclosure just
Oh, wow.
as a standard on those parts, because they don't want like some of the parts like, okay, well, here, this is one that I can actually show. So this was a Chevy S10.
Oh, that's wild. Okay, so guys, if you're
yeah.
listening back on
Wow.
the podcast, he's showing a 3D printed model of a
Yep.
Chevy S10 that has been just mangled in a car
Yeah.
accident.
Yes.
It wasn't great, and while the
The fact that
passenger
you got
survived,
that to print on
unfortunately,
FDM is impressive, actually.
you don't want to know how much time it took to take all the support material off of that.
Yeah.
But the passenger was the one that was actually going after everybody, and in that particular case, they were way more fined than they should have been, given the fact that that was a dump truck that did that. So
Oof.
Oh, wow.
this is all public record and all that at this point. So it
Mhm.
is that enables attorneys to tell their stories really, really well, right? Pictures show you 2D.
Mhm.
If you're an attorney, you say, oh, put your mom into the seat of this vehicle. No, here's the vehicle. put your mom in it now, right? You know,
That,
let us
It's a very
show you what
powerful
it
that,
looks
story.
that
like.
is
Yeah.
It's
that is a
incredibly
powerful statement.
powerful. And
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
that's where it is the right tool for the right job, right?
Yeah.
The average person will never need a LiDAR scanner ever. And in
Right.
fact, we're
Mhm.
likely looking at selling our RTech Ray.
Okay.
I don't use it as much as I would like to, and it its service is very expensive. It's $5,600 every 18 months.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah,
Okay.
and
Jeez.
that's how it maintains its certification.
I mean, a lot of this
Sure.
sounds like it's just the cost of being on the bleeding edge of this stuff because we're seeing
It
new
is,
tech come
and
online every day. Where
mhm.
now, granted, I understand the stuff that we're doing with our phone. Like I've gotten to play with Polycam, Luma AI, some of these like
Yeah, I hear they're amazing.
these things, and for what you can do with your phone, right? And it makes me go like, well, why would I want to have? And but clearly, I cannot scan a scene from distance like that. I mean,
No,
it's again the right tool for the right job, but as with
Mhm.
every piece of technology, we see incredibly expensive, high barriers to entry to begin with, and then as it comes down or as time goes
Yeah.
by, the pricing comes down for not just the equipment but
yeah,
the support software. So this has historically been a very like compute intensive process
it
as
is.
well, right? For the level
Mhm.
Yeah,
of detail that you're getting. So that I know there's some
yeah.
conversation. Alex Gibson and JF in the chat are talking about the computer rigs that they have to support a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's a fun thing. And for the computer nerds out there, my scanning laptop is a Ryzen 3750H. That is a 4-core, 8-thread CPU. It has 32
Mhm.
gigs of DDR4 RAM and a GTX 1650 4 gig. That's it. And it runs this scanner at max FPS. However, it cannot run an Einstar for more than about 2 minutes. Now, the benefit is the Einstar has free software, so I can install it on my desktop or on our editing PC or on our streaming PC and use it there.
Sure.
Those all also have 32 gigs, so we're still limited. It's a RAM utilization thing,
Okay.
but it's where all of the sudden it's about the software now. The Einstar scanner will actually go blow for blow with the EVA in terms of accuracy. They don't claim as good of accuracy, but I've measured pretty darn close. Like we're talking 80% of the accuracy that I can get out of a $20,000 scanner for $900.
Wow.
And when
Sure.
you look at an entire scanner costing less than my scanner cost per year
Yeah.
for its
Mhm.
software, all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I can get really close. And there will be some mission critical jobs where you might say, it's not for me, right? You have to manage your risk
Sure.
tolerance for that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but like I said, there is a lot of amazing stuff coming out of places that aren't Luxembourg or the United States. Right? Artec's based in Luxembourg. That's where their
Okay.
headquarters is at.
Okay.
So yeah, and I said it before. Artec is a software company that makes hardware. The EVA, I've owned 3 of these in my time in the industry. I end up selling them because our use case goes away, the project we bought it for goes away,
Okay.
and the hardware has not changed in over a decade.
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
the
wow.
software. Yeah, the hardware is the exact same. It's the
Okay.
software that changes, and the
Interesting.
software is what is. I click like for your scan, Pooch. I clicked one button. It cleaned up your scan. It gave us the texture. We did send it to a designer to clean it up a little bit, add detail like in your eyes. Right, you're not going to
Mm.
see
Mhm.
some of the detail in the eyes, but you will when you 3D print it.
And I
So
appreciate that
we
because I have dead
Oh.
eyes to begin with, and so adding some life is never a bad thing.
that
But
can happen.
you,
Yes.
so you touched on 2 things that I find interesting too. Like there's a total cost of ownership that you got to evaluate, right? Where it's like the
Yeah.
hardware may be cheap, but the software is expensive, or vice versa. And so when you're coming at it from a business standpoint, you need to make sure you're educating yourself on all of like these things. If you need to maintain a certification, that might
Yeah.
increase the cost, stuff like that as well. But I'm wondering if you can dive in a little bit more on like the actual workflow of
Sure.
going from a scan to like say have a actual fabricated product like you were showing with that Chevy. You don't
Mhm.
always necessarily need to output an actual
Yeah.
representation. Sometimes these are just living in the ether and you can
Mhm.
spin it around and show it in the courtroom on your computer, right? And it maybe never comes into the physical world.
Sometimes it doesn't, exactly. And
Yeah.
for our tech, it is as simple as scan it,
Mm-hmm.
review it. If
Yep.
you need to do more scans, you keep going. So you pause the scanner, you take a look at the data. If you miss something, you restart the scanner. It will, since it can geometry and texture track, oftentimes it can figure out where it's located, go back,
Oh.
do the piece that you missed. And in the
Mhm.
event that you do miss something and you miss it even on the review, well, then you got to design it in. And that's where programs like ZBrush, which is our preferred, or Blender would come in, where you're going to be doing sculpting.
Right.
So the big misunderstanding about 3D scanners is that it does not give you a CAD model. It gives
No,
you
it's not.
a
It's not
OBJ or an STL.
not straight
Mhm.
to, well, certainly not
Yeah.
straight to
Yeah.
any kind of reference geometry. And in a lot of ways,
No.
that feels like one of the biggest potential fit. Like the benefit, you're like, oh, I can get this amazing detail, but a lot of times it's like you have
Mhm.
too much information, right? Like
Yeah,
it just depends on what your application is. Because I hear about people all the time, like, oh, I got to spend so much time like cleaning up the mesh, right? And I
Mhm.
know there's new
Mhm.
software and AI and things to like
Now,
help.
I just click a button
Yeah,
and it
help
does
streamline.
all of that for me, right? It'll even fill in the holes and in paint the texture. So it can utilize, if there is a hole, it'll look at the texture that's around where the hole is and in paint. So when we did your scan, part of the inside of your arm was missing. And I missed it even on my review of your scan. But when I processed your scan, the software's like, oh yeah, that's totally the rest of his arm. And it made the rest of your arm. And it did
Oh,
a good enough
wow.
job that you can't even tell.
No, I don't spend a
Wow.
lot of time looking at my arms anyway to analyze them. Question in the chat for you by JF. Grant, real quick, do you use scanning spray or foot powder spray or dry shampoo? Can you explain what that means and
Yeah.
answer
So
it?
a lot of we're going to go with, I mean, they're structured light scanners, but I would say a lot of the hobby grade scanners, like your Revo Points and even
Mhm.
your prosumer scanners, like your Shining 3Ds, they're mostly going to be structured light, where they flash a light, they flash a pattern, and then there are cameras. So on the EVA, we have camera here, there's a projector in the middle, and then we have our light array. And
Okay.
the cameras are at a known distance away from the center, and as the projection projects it's a unique image that they use.
Mhm.
The actual cameras can detect how that is wrapping around a surface. From there, you have your ring light here. It's just a bunch of really high powered LEDs that light the surface, so you have a consistent color.
Yeah.
If your object is black or clear,
Yeah.
you generally can't scan it. So if it is a static object that doesn't move,
Yeah.
sometimes we'll just cover it in tape, because a lot of time that works
Oh.
out just fine too.
Ah, okay.
If it's a vehicle,
Yeah.
right, where they have really smooth panels,
Yeah.
put tape on the panels. You can delete the tape in post. And if it is a really smooth thing, take the tape and draw a bunch of lines on it, just a bunch of squiggly lines, like you're a
Ah,
kid
okay.
on the walls, right?
Yeah.
And that will allow the scanner to track the extra thickness of the tape as
Okay.
well as the actual color of it. But in terms of scan spray, we do use A-Sub and Atblime as our scan sprays, but I do also sometimes use the foot powder spray or dry shampoo. And the reason he's asking that is both of those leave a white residue
Okay.
on whatever it is. So that takes a black part,
Okay.
makes it gray, takes a clear part, makes it opaque. The nice thing about the scan sprays is that they sublimate. So after a determined amount of time, it depends on temperature, depends on the type of formula that you're using,
Sure.
it just goes away and there's no cleanup.
Disappears. Yeah.
Foot powder spray and dry shampoo, you have to wipe it all off. And for things like cars, it
Mhm.
depends. If we're doing it outside, I'm using dry shampoo, or we will actually use talcum powder, like baby powder, because it's
Okay.
effectively the same thing.
Mhm.
And we actually book somebody to detail the car when we're done. So we tell them,
Oh,
do
who's
not
you'll-
clean your car if you want it to get scanned. I want your car dirty.
Could you
Uh,
use powdered sugar or delousing agent?
I don't know about delousing agent. You could look at using. I don't know what delousing agent even is.
It's a Super Troopers joke. I love it. It's powdered sugar. It's
Oh,
delicious.
sorry. Yeah, I have no clue.
I know.
Powdered sugar wouldn't stick to the objects. That's why you couldn't use powdered sugar, or it wouldn't stick
Okay.
as well. You want the thinnest coat possible, because any extra thickness that you add
You're
is
messing
now
with the scan.
known is known error in your scans.
Yeah. That makes
That's
sense.
the thing with those scan sprays. Problem is they're like anywhere between $25 and $40 for an 8-ounce can.
Of course they are, because it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
They're
specialized.
of course,
stupid
thing,
yep.
expensive.
right?
And
So-
A-Sub makes you cough. So if you're scanning like the
Ugh.
inside of a vehicle, you need to wear a respirator. Otherwise, you're going to start
Oh, geez.
Well, and
coughing and
talc
gagging,
causes
yeah.
cancer or something too, doesn't it? I mean, it was like a whole thing about talc.
What doesn't?
Yeah,
Okay, you're in
it's true. That's
California.
a fair
Everything.
Yeah,
causes cancer.
I just live in the land
living
of
causes cancer,
Yeah,
Pooch.
no, it's true. It's true. Andrew, you had a question. Go.
Yeah, so Grant's done a fantastic job of like kind of talking about some of the use cases and things that he's done with these scanners. Like, could you touch on some of the business decisions behind the purchases of these scanners, or like how have you factored this into your operational,
Let's talk business.
expertise?
Yeah, great question.
I'm gonna do the thing that I'm gonna tell you the thing that I do, but I don't recommend you do it unless you know what you're doing, and is that I buy them secondhand. I buy them used.
Okay.
Which means somebody else eats all the depreciation and I don't have to. I make sure that the scanners that I buy are new enough to still be under a factory warranty, or I actually factor in we have an Artex Spider, and it was recalibrated before it was sent to me, but it got damaged during shipping and didn't work properly. It is on month 3 of being at Artec getting repaired. And they are not fast about this. They're telling me it could be upwards of 6 months that I have my investment not being able to make me any money.
Ugh,
well, I knew this could be a problem, so I paid very little for it and just don't care. It is a significant outlay of capital, but it's not going to take me very long to pay that thing back when I have it in hand. So I'm not too worried about it. What I prefer is that as a business case, you hope that there's somebody around you that you can work with on a wholesale basis. Say, look, I want to get into 3D scanning. I know that you do it. This is kind of the game that I'm going after. I want to make sure I'm not going to step on your toes. But is there a way that I could rent scanners from you, get training, so that you don't even need to send some of your people? I will rent them. I will put an insurance policy on them. So if there's anything that goes wrong, we're covered, you're covered, and you can give me a better deal because you don't need to send somebody. Now, not many shops are going to let you do this. It is not how I did it, but it's how we've had people ask us before. I don't have enough scanners to say, yeah, if you break it and it takes 6 months to get fixed, I don't care. I currently care if my EVA gets damaged. But I am looking at buying a second one so we can start offering the ability to mail this scanner to anybody anywhere for a price, right? But I recommend this is that if you are looking to get into doing something as a business, you have to first look to outsource it. Unless you're willing to take the jump and spend the capital, or you find a damn good deal somewhere where it's like, honestly, even if it needs to be recertified at $2,500, I'm still not going to lose money on this. Make the deal.
Or like you were saying earlier, you can, if you can price it into the job, if it's something where there's a very specific use case, and you've got a customer that understands that this is special and it's going to cost them some money, it's a lot easier to build a business case around that. And it sounds like you do that to some extent. You'll buy it, you might have a use case, maybe you can use it for other stuff, but we're talking about. It's an interesting time because it's like, yes, these are very expensive things. They can be still, but like we can see the future coming. And it reminds me of the early PC, any kind of piece of technology, digital camera equipment, digital photography and video equipment. It's like what we're able to capture now with a phone is insane, from as compared to what you used to have to pay. And there was very similar stuff. Like you might have to have like professionals that were like doing leasing arrangements. It was expensive to repair all that stuff. So is that a threat that you feel like 10 years from now you're going to be dealing with a lot more competition because the price of the barrier to entry to like get in and do this stuff is going to be so much less?
It's just like what we've seen with 3D printing, right? There will be people that will always want to be cheaper. And I tell them, hey, if you want to work for pennies on the dollar and you want to run yourself into the ground and never make any money, go have fun. I don't care. And there will be clients of ours that might jump ship. But then I look at it and say, were they really good customers to begin with? If their only reason for working with us is because of a price and not because of the quality, the customer service, the fact that I will travel nationwide to go do the jobs that they need, and we're one of the only companies that will do that in the area, I would hedge a bet and say maybe they weren't the best clients to begin with.
Well, I think that's true for any
value
business.
What we do.
Yeah.
And so, yes,
It's
is there some
service.
concern?
Yeah.
Well, of course, there's some concern, But the cool thing of also being a content creator is those companies that I'm worried about are the ones that I'm talking to get the scanners early, to mess with them early. So
Okay.
I can decide if I want to let go of this and work with something kind of, I don't want to say lower end, but lower price. Because
Sure.
like we do a lot of custom clothing. When you see me traveling in the vlogs where we're going out, when I went to California to go scan the 49ers, we scanned the US women's soccer team. The reason I had this scanner at Earth is because the day before Earth, we actually went and scanned the Philadelphia Flyers. And it's all for custom fit clothing. So it's like waist down scans. It's kind of weird. But you get used to it, you know, after the first couple of times, like, oh,
I need to scan you
okay.
below the waist is what you
Yeah,
tell
I
people.
asked for underwear, but I guess you don't have it. The first couple of times that's a little
Really?
weird, but you get used to it.
Has that
Yeah.
happened?
Okay, if you've ever seen Letterkenny, it is exactly what the hockey teams are always like, and it is exactly what you expect. So yes, hockey teams specifically, and they're a lot of fun because they always joke around, and the guys are the harder ones to work with because they're always like catcalling and making fun of each other. The ladies that we work with are just they're like militarized. They're in, they're out, they're efficient. It's great. Where the guys hang out like, could you scan me for Call of Duty? I could.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't know what to do with the data.
Yeah.
But
they're trying to
yeah,
slip you
it's
some
so
money to like, can you beef up the mesh a little
Yeah.
here for us? You know, like,
hey, you know, extra time on scans is $2.50 an hour. You know, and these things are accurate to a tenth of a millimeter. So anything beyond that, that's between you and yours.
Wow.
But
you found some really interesting use cases that I just never occurred to me, and they make perfect sense. And from a business standpoint, like I was saying, like it's not about the hardware, the equipment; it's your expertise that you're paying for, and it's the service, right? And so it's like we come to you, we do this, we can offer these services. What equipment? It's great if you as a business can get cheaper, less expensive stuff, so that you're hopefully your
down to the
margins
software.
better.
If these cheaper companies, like if RevoPoint's new software, the 5.0 software, is leaps and bounds better than the previous. Like, I have not used my RevoPoint Mini, and I backed that on Kickstarter as much as we all hate Kickstarter. They're a big company that uses it for marketing, and I'm not going to get into a rant about that today. But as much like that RevoPoint Mini, if you can get it to actually track, will hit 20 microns all day long. And it is a $500 scanner. It should not be that good.
Yeah.
The thing is, RevoPoint's software was so bad it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because the tracking was just so terrible. I mean, like RevoPoint's got some amazing accessories. Like if you want to scan people, go get their turntable for scanning people. It's dirt cheap and can hold. It held my brother. He's like 350. Maybe. I'm sorry if I'm wrong, John, but I know you're heavier than me, and I'm 230, and it held me no problem.
Those are torquey bastards. I got to do. So I'm holding in my hand here, ladies and gentlemen. I have a little USB of a scan that was done of me at the Rapid conference I was just at in Chicago by the RevoPoint range. And I've been scanned before by multiple different things. Like there was at ERF a couple of years ago, some guy did like the full blown array, but it was of pi, using pi cameras.
I heard that upset some people because he never sent the data.
I don't know what even happened to that. Yeah, whatever. It's you get what you pay for. I paid nothing. But I've been scanned by a number of things. I've seen stuff, but as you just said, it's so about, and this is true for any piece of technology a lot of the time. It's like the software is oftentimes the limiting. We've seen it in 3D printing as well, right? Like the machines that we have and the capabilities that they have, like the machines can be using technology that's 10, 15, 20 years old, and by implementing new slicing strategies and non-planar moves and things like that, we are able to unlock new potential and features and stuff. So we're waiting a lot of time for the software and the systems to catch up. And now with the advent of machine learning and AI and stuff like that, we're seeing just some really, really incredible use cases and applications. I was, to go back to this RevoPoint and the range, the way RevoPoint has gone about, and you're more of an expert than I am, but like they've broken it into kind of like a, for big objects, for medium-sized objects, for small-sized objects. So there was the RevoPoint Mini, and then there was something, I don't remember what was in between, and then there was the range, which was really for like human scanning. That was their application. And it looked like, what's the Xbox,
the Kinect.
The Kinect. It looked like
uses the same technology.
Xbox Kinect.
It uses the same technology. It's infrared based. So the Kinect is an infrared based 3D scanner.
Right. So
Okay.
but the power of the whole system was this new 5.0 software. I think it's the 5.0
Yep.
software.
It is.
And
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
were there. He was showing me, the guy that was demoing the whole thing. The scanning process was the exact same, except for I stood on a big turntable and just went, you know.
Yeah, it's
Um,
great. Like for scanning people, turntable's awesome, but I wasn't carrying that with me.
Totally.
Right. You know.
But when he started showing me the process of taking it into the computer and the software, and he was explaining to me like how they have these AI algorithms. So in the case of body scanning or human, when you're dealing with humans, where there's kind of known entities and symmetry that you can work with, a lot of the power in the remeshing is it has context of like, hey, you know what? If we messed up the scan on the right arm, we can like apply data from the left arm. And
Yep.
get a very,
Oh,
very,
okay.
We've done that
reasonable
before.
recreation. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it's doing this automatically, and it's filling in gaps in the same way. So really quick, I feel like this is a backtrack on the technology, but the EVA has, not only precision mesh data, but then it's applying some really great color data as well. A lot of these cheap scanners and stuff like that, like yes, there is sometimes color,
it's
but
not as
sometimes it's
good.
black and white. Sometimes it's just you're just creating a mesh too, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. And I can actually turn off the feature. So Artec actually sells a lesser version of the EVA, and it's just software locked to not do color. It's the same hardware. It's just it's a software lock.
Gives
and
them
it's
another
a
Oh, okay.
$10,000 software lock.
monetize. Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. And we find that like when we scan players, when we scan like football, hockey, all that, we turn off the color
Mhm.
because oftentimes it will latch onto like the color of leg hair
Mhm.
and screw itself up. When we turn off color,
Lesser known
we're
sequel to
good.
The Color of Money. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like the thing I love about Artec is we can mesh as we scan, which is nuts. So normally when
that's
you scan,
interesting.
all you get is a point cloud, and then you have to run an algorithm to mesh it.
Okay,
We
Okay.
have the
so
ability
for
to
people that don't
mesh
quite follow
live.
that, point cloud is just a series of dots, and a mesh is actually
Yep.
when you start connecting those points with vertices.
Mesh is the STL.
And it creates a bunch of triangles, basically, that create a
Yep.
skin to the whole thing. Is that a good way of putting it?
Yeah,
Perhaps?
that is. It's
Mhm.
literally playing connect the dots.
Yep.
And it turns it into a triangular polygonal mesh.
Okay.
And with the EVA, it can do it live as it is scanning. It takes the extra processing power, so it actually means I can't max out the scanner anymore, but it is way better for me to see what we're looking at. And then I can go have it remesh it later on,
Sure.
right? At another time. But I get to see if my mesh looks clean
Yes.
instead of just looking at the point cloud data, which a lot of
Sure.
times hides a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Mike in the
Makes
chat
sense.
says most of the time I would rather not waste the time calculating color. So I suppose this just depends on what your use case is, right?
Exactly. So for
Mhm.
custom fit clothing, I don't care what the colors are at
Doesn't
all.
matter.
I just need to know
The
where
shape.
where's your
Where's
leg.
the bulge?
So instead of going to get custom fit
Yeah.
compression gear that's a large or an XL or a medium, it's left leg, right leg.
Yeah.
And
makes
when you're a
sense.
professional sports team that pays people millions of dollars, an extra 5% of recovery worth its weight in gold.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
JF, another question. Grant, do you also provide just the scan data to someone? Do you provide just the scan data to someone else, as in the human scans?
Yeah, so if you want to get scanned for some reason, we would provide you with the data, right? Anytime that
Mhm.
someone gets scanned, even if they want to do printing with us, we still provide them with the scan data because they might have a use for that later on. And like Pooch, your scan was over 50 million polygons, and it took what?
I'm a
90
very
seconds?
faceted individual, multifaceted, if you will. And so-
Multifaceted for sure.
So
yeah.
that is why I have a much larger data file than everyone else.
Obviously.
Clearly. But this is an interesting question to me because you don't have to, like, there are I think people do this all the time with various business ventures and stuff where it's like, oh, if you want the actual digital assets, you're going to have to pay more for that. So for example,
Sure.
you start getting questions of ownership too. Who owns
I
the
don't
rights
want it.
to, well, and that's your choice, right?
Yeah.
But could
Yeah.
you sell it in a fashion of like, well, if you want the rights to this scan, like we as 3D Musketeers own the rights to this and I will license you use of it. I don't know what's common. I'm just curious because
Yeah, that's an interesting business case.
come
Yeah.
across that in
like-
other industries.
if we were going to do that, right, I would have to, like, ethically to me, I would have to do the scan for free, right? Because it's now my property. I can't have them pay for my property. That sounds a little backwards, but we do have a policy that if you don't pay, we do repossess the assets. It's actually how I have the digital assets for Justin Bieber.
You own the digital
So-
assets to Justin Bieber.
I own the digital rights to Justin Bieber because they never paid me.
That's
Oh no,
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
this is
happens.
an interesting, an interesting segment. I think is the ownership of those digital assets, as you guys are calling it, and I know that there are like several landmark cases here in the state of Illinois where I'm from, on the ownership of that biometric data, because if you're
Yep.
scanning a person, that's now considered biometric data, right?
Yeah.
So
It is.
I'm assuming you have some. I don't know how the laws in Florida are, but I would assume that there are some specific things that you would need to follow in order to make for sure that that data, is either secure, or that the person who's subscribing to the service understands the risks, I guess, associated with
I mean,
that.
what are laws in Florida? I didn't think we had any here, but I just kind of abide by the general rule of I'm gonna make it a little more politically correct. Don't be a jerk. And like, look,
Sure.
I don't care. And like, this is literally a talk that I had with Tom Brady of the Buccaneers.
Mhm.
He was the only Bucks player that refused to get scanned because he was afraid that we would release the digital assets to his legs. And I said, while there are plenty of housewives that are chomping at the bit to have a leg lamp of Tom Brady, I have no cares to do that. It's not, I am getting paid to do the scans. I've made my money. I'm happy. I keep a copy of the data so that we have good data backup and security protocols. And that's just it's a thing that we do. So in case our client has a data issue or there's an issue
Mhm.
somewhere along the line, we're covered.
Sure.
But yeah, we don't. It's not something that I worry about because I don't want to worry about it. If you pay me, you own it, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I think that
Unless Justin Bieber doesn't pay you, and then
Yeah,
you own
if you
it.
don't pay me, I repossess the assets, right? And there are certain
Repo-
times like
repo man.
we
Yeah.
reserve the right to reproduce the parts. So like we have a model of Snoop Dogg. If you ever saw the show Pure Genius, it was only like a season and a half. All the 3D printing in that show we did. There's going to be a video series coming up where I react to 3D printing in news media, in television, and one of those episodes is going to be me watching the episodes with my parts in them and having the actual screen shown parts in the video because they sent them back to us when they were done. Like,
I
we
can
don't need
see
these
the
anymore. Do you
thumbnails
want them?"
now.
Yeah. Expert
Grant
3D printer expert reacts to 3D printing in news media.
Yeah.
God, that's gonna
that's gonna crush, dude. That's just gonna.
I hope it
crush.
does. And because we have this experience and a lot of times we've made the parts, I can actually show the real parts as well. So I have a little curio cabinet and Steve Aoki is in it. One of the Snoop Dogs.
Steve
is in
Aoki
it.
is in your curio cabinet. That's dope.
Yeah. Steve Aoki's in my curio cabinet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's fun. We actually did a full size Steve Aoki. He is 6'3", 6'4". So we did a
big
one
dude.
for one life size Steve Aoki. It was
Wow.
$18,000, and I called him. I said, Steve, why are we doing this? He's like, I'm gonna come off as a prick here, but I make about, and this was years ago, I make about 40 grand a night that I do these shows. Would you spend half a day's wage to get a one for one copy of yourself? I said, well, I already have an identical twin, so I'm good. But yeah, I guess most people
Yeah.
would. So when you quantify it
I-
as it's half a day's wage,
Well,
okay, I get it.
Okay. Well, and
Yeah.
I, let's be fair. Like when your brand is your being, is your you're a celebrity, of
Right.
sorts and
He's
stuff
big
like that.
on the
It's
brand
kind of a
side.
different. It's you think of things differently.
Sure.
So this kind of ties back to another question you said. So, and maybe that's why you responded. If I'm some rock star, I want to scan. You got prompted here. You talked about
Okay.
it was $18,000, but that's probably not. Is that including flights and hotels?
That was
and-
full color 3D printing. So that was using a full color sandstone 3D printer to do it all. So
Okay.
this was all
That was just
lifelike
to
color.
reproduce this thing. So did you
Yep.
did you have to travel for this? Like, is that what you charged him
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah. So
all right.
that was his end thing. So he paid for the travel. So he flew us out.
Yep.
We did the scan and then we came back. And because we basically paid for all of our expenses there and back, I just kind of worked in my hourly rate
Mm-hmm.
for the scanning
Mm-hmm.
into his cost. Now, mind you, nowadays we don't do that. You will pay us to do the scan, then you will pay us to do the print. That
Mm.
job was a lot more labor than I was expecting. So
Hmm.
if we take labor involved in that, we didn't make anywhere near as much money as we were like, oh my God, 18 grand, this is gonna be great. No, it was not. There was a ton of
Sure.
so mistakes were made. This was early on in the business. But now if you want to fly us somewhere, it does come with a day rate. So our current day rate at this time, subject to change without warning. So let me know, if you're all looking to do it, is $1,500 a day, plus travel expenses to fly me places.
Right.
So
Per diem.
that's the Eva
Right.
and me
Yeah.
anywhere plus those expenses for one day. And that is, it can be a 12-hour day, it can be a 4-hour day. It is a day. So
Yeah.
if you're
That,
gonna
that day is
fly me
shot.
somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the
Mhm.
day is shot for me. I need to be able to pay for that day. So we tell people, if you are one singular person that wants a scan, line up a bunch of other friends that want it too. We would charge roughly $250 to $300 per person if you wanted to actually get regular scans. So bill them that, and you'll pay for my time very quickly.
Hmm.
Makes sense.
Just to backtrack a touch, I know we're covering a ton of ground, and I
Mhm.
love to go back, but like I find one of the topics really interesting is like we're gonna encounter some of these scenarios now where like we're setting legal precedent in terms of like
Yep.
where are the laws in terms of who owns their digital likeness. And I think there've been some cases where
Mhm.
celebrity, especially when we start getting into deep fakes and AI and all these systems
Mhm.
where especially public figures can be reasonably recreated likenesses of them in three-dimensional form, the sounds of their voice. Like, where does your ownership of yourself, of your personal brand, of your digital assets lie, and how will that impact your business, do you suppose, moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, with how much I've been on camera, right? There's always this worry of there's definitely enough data to do an AI recreation of me. I already have a living one. I don't like, I'm not concerned about this. I am not
Fine,
a
it's
celebrity. This isn't a problem
Mhm.
for me.
sure.
But I can certainly see that, there are people that will not get scanned simply because they are worried about what precedent, like you said, what precedent does this set? And I try not to think
Mhm.
about it because I am not qualified to even talk on it, right?
Yeah.
These are lawyers that get paid more
Yeah.
money than these scanners cost to argue with each other about who's right and who's wrong. And I'd rather, again, abide by. Can I do a little cussing? Is that cool?
No.
Okay. All right.
Wait,
Don't be
what?
a jerk, and if you're gonna be a jerk, be a big one. Those are the two rules of life that my dad's taught me,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
Yeah.
normally a D word, but you can figure it out.
yeah, yeah.
And it it is just a case where we're just kind to people. And
Yeah.
if you pay me, you own your
Mhm.
assets. If you don't, you get 90 days. I will remind you multiple times during those 90 days. If not, we repossess the assets. And that only occurs with like celebrities because they don't pay up front. That's not how celebrities work. But the individuals that we work with, they pay us up front.
Wait, hold on a
Uh,
second.
Mhm.
What is it about being a celebrity that exempts you from having to pay up front?
they think they just think they don't have to, and I'd rather have the job and take the risk, and knowing that if Justin Bieber doesn't pay me, I can make way more money owning his digital asset than the couple $1,000s that his scan and print was supposed to
Oh,
cost
until
me.
he
So
sues your ass.
um,
Yeah. Like,
he
Yeah.
can't sue me. He didn't pay. We have
that's why I was asking the question. I don't
Yeah.
know
yeah.
who owns the likeness. Yeah.
We actually sent legal letters to his
Oh,
manager
legal
and
letters.
to the address that we
Okay.
have from an attorney stating that a non-pay will result in a repossession of the digital assets. Now, I've never done anything with it. I don't care to do anything with it.
Well,
It's not a
is that
big deal.
contractually agreed to upfront, or is it
Yes.
because yeah? Okay.
That is
Yeah.
in our contracts, actually in our terms of service, that if a client either ceases payment during now let's say it's a progress payment, progress delivery, our only recourse outside of going to court is repossessing and at some point open sourcing of the assets under a mutually assured destruction clause. which is hilariously legal in Florida. So
Okay.
yeah, so yeah, it's like, you don't want to pay me, I have no reason to keep your files. I'm just going to open source them, and that means you can't patent it anymore because there is now prior art that exists. Now that's only ever happened once for us, and I don't want to get too far into it, but if you look deep enough, you'll be able to find the files. But you know, we have a policy that certain things are paid up front, and if they're not, we actually put things into escrow. So we will say, this is a $5,000 project. You will put the entire 5,000 into escrow. The first 2,500 will be you know, remitted to us immediately, and then as we do delivery, there's extra payment that comes out of the escrow. Now we cover the entire escrow fee, so I just work that into my pricing, but it means that we don't have these problems anymore. Right?
Yeah,
The
that makes
escrow
sense.
service covers it because they're a neutral third party, and
Yep.
they are handling the money.
See,
So
as a business guy, I gotta tell you, I don't like this one bit because it
I
just
don't either.
enables that
Yeah.
entitlement of the "do you know who I am?" I understand that a lot of I mean, whether
Yep.
it's celebrities or influencers, there's a lot of people leveraging their value of like, well, if you want to be working with us, then this is, you know, the cost, and that's fine. Everything is, I guess, potentially negotiable, but you're putting yourself at a massive disadvantage from negotiating. Like, you have no guarantee. Yeah, they're potentially like a rich and wealthy individual, but if they're not paying their bills, you know, that's
yeah,
not
my
how
little
you can
company's
run your
supposed
business
to go
anyway.
sue. Come on,
Right.
Nothing comes of
If
this.
they
that is
want, if
beneficial.
you're providing a service that they want and they're coming to you, and I guess you have to do a little competitive analysis, like what's the risk of them just finding somebody else that will take their terms. But this kind of, I don't know if bullying is fine. Maybe I'm being a little bit hyperbolic here, but it's like, I hear horror stories all the time. If you want to work with HP, for example, you have to be willing to accept 90-day payment terms, you know, and they're like, that is the cost of doing business with us. But we'll do, you
That's
know,
correct.
$20 million annually with you and not bat an eye. So I guess you have to make those decisions.
Yeah, it's again what your risk tolerance will allow you, right? So there are, like, remember, we did not go after the Smithsonian. They came after us. And that is the thing that I tell people. If the Smithsonian trusts me and you don't, that's not on me. That's on you. Now, they have a government credit card. They're my favorite client because they never have a limit. They just say, here's your files.
We'll print
This
more
is
money.
what we know we should be paying for it. We will tell you when to stop printing. They don't care how many we make. We would normally run 3 shifts of people, 24/7, running these machines as hard as we can, because we know the more pieces that we make for them, the more money we can make. And they loved us. We are their certified backup printer to this day.
I think
That's
there's
awesome.
I think there's a good message in this, and it's hard, especially as you're getting your start, because you want to say yes to everything. But I think a lot of people don't
know when to say no.
You don't know when to say no, and they don't value themselves enough. Like, they're afraid if I push back, that they're gonna go away, right? Like, I dealt with this all the time in the web dev world, right? Like,
and they might.
And they might, but that's the thing. If you set the precedent early that you're going to just cave to unreasonable terms, of course, it doesn't hurt people to ask, like, hey, you know what? I'm going to see if I can get away with not paying this guy as long as I can. And it's really popular in business, right? Like, defer your outlay, because cash is king, right? So you want to keep that money in your account as long as possible. But the companies that you want to work with and also that are reasonable and say, look, I don't know about you, but I don't work for free, and I need to make sure that our costs are covered and stuff like that. And I'm willing to have a conversation. Like, sometimes we'll end up somewhere in between. But if I don't know you and you're just, I mean, Andrew can speak to this. Think about how many people are constantly approaching you to, like, buy on a PO that you've never met before. That all this.
Exactly.
Nope.
Like,
you don't get terms the first time.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know you. I don't know you're gonna pay. I don't know, and maybe you do credit checks, and maybe you do all this other stuff. But that's a lot of administrative overhead that you don't.
It's a relationship,
have time to do, right?
Right. So the first time that we were flown out to do work, I told the company that flies us out, hey, this is our first time. You're not gonna like it, but this is my estimated cost. I want to go ahead and charge that to you now. If I go above it, I will let you know before we go above it. If we go below it, we will go ahead and apply that to future orders. They were totally cool with it. They were totally cool.
Yep.
We did 2 jobs with them like that where they prepaid. I was really good at my estimations. I was kind of proud of myself for that. And now I just send them my bills. So when I came back from Austin,
It comes down to trust. Yeah.
Yep, calculated everything up, sent it over to him. Guy's in Australia, so normally takes at least 12 hours to get paid because he's 14 hours ahead of us. So
Sure.
I try to send it over like really late at night, so I know that he's up and sees it, and he pays me basically instantly via wire transfer, which is the
Ooh.
best way to get paid because there are no credit card fees that way.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there
that is a
are bank
relationship
fees
that we
usually
have
on the end of the guy sending it, but yes,
It's
but
it's
this
like
is
$25 or $30, right?
this is a
And
really
he's
good
cool about it.
business nugget, guys. Regardless of what business you're in, what Grant just said is a fantastic. It can be a negotiating strategy, but like in terms of like establishing a longer term rapport, giving credits on future orders as a negotiation point is a very powerful way to say like, look, we want to have a long-term relationship. I am willing to concede that there are some unknowns right here that we need to mitigate. I need to make sure that I'm not gonna be left holding the bag if this takes a little bit more time, and so I'm gonna be upfront with like billing time and materials on things or whatnot. But if we're under, I know that you want to feel like you're getting the max value for your dollar. We do this with resale stuff all the time and you'll see this in reseller contracts too. If there's damaged goods, if customers are returning stuff, great way to mitigate that is just saying like we'll do credits on future orders because then there's a future order, not, hey, give me my money back.
Right. That's not a great way to do business, to be clear, right? Negotiating, and remember, you might be dealing with a business, but at the end of the day, you're talking to another human that is just another human. And if you are talking to somebody the way that would piss you off, it's going to upset them too. So just don't be jerks to people, and you'll end up with a situation where everybody works out. Like the company that flies me places, they have the same scanners as I do, but being based in Australia means it's way more expensive to come over to do the scans and then fly home than it is to fly me places.
Yeah.
And they trust me to wear one of their shirts while I'm doing my scanning, to represent their company, their branding, and everything. They trust me to be basically the person that is their brand.
Well, and like I said, it's not about the hardware; it's about the service, and you're providing the service, and you're the person. Listen, you guys, we did a solid 60. I want to be respectful of everybody's time because I know Grant and Andrew both have some stuff, and so do I. We're gonna have you come back because I love talking about this stuff. I think there's a lot of great nuggets here. I really I love where we went to. Like if we're gonna hone in just on some good business stuff at the end, it's like don't be afraid to have these conversations. I know when you're new and people are conflict avoidant, but just because you push back doesn't necessarily mean that you're being a jerk about it. Like this is part of what doing business is. You have to be able to say, well, what if we do it this way? And there are solutions to all these things. Think outside the box, come up with solutions, and work on establishing long-term relationships is fantastic advice, whether you're in 3D scanning or any other line of work.
And freaking price accordingly, please, right? If you're using a $20,000 scanner and you're charging $50 an hour for your time, hit me up first before you raise your prices so I can just outsource work to you. But then raise your freaking prices because you have to understand that, even like, so I think JF asked, locally, right? What do we charge? Charge $250 an hour locally. And he also asked about the printer for Aoki. It was done in pieces on a ProJet 660 Pro by 3D Systems. If you would like to buy one, I have one for sale. They are $70,000 brand new. I will give it to you for less than half.
Smoking deal. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, and they're 1,000-pound printers. They're huge, but there is a lot out there. There's a lot of opportunity for people. Realize that in my area in Tampa, we are the second company to do 3D scanning professionally in the Tampa Bay area. And that means if a city is as large as Tampa only has 2, your city probably doesn't have 1 or even 2. And so it's a great opportunity for you to look and say, how can I build a business slowly? Obviously, don't overextend yourself. But it is great opportunity for you to take that hobby of messing around with a scanner and turn it into a jobby. It is a lot harder than you
put
think.
a bow on that. I love
I'm
it.
doing your plugs, okay? All right, I'm a content creator. I know how this works. Like and subscribe.
Yeah.
But always remember that if you if you overpromise and underdeliver, you lose clients. If you underpromise and overdeliver, you get a great reputation, you get testimonials, and that's how you are able to start affording bigger scanners, do bigger jobs that pay bigger money.
Grant Posner, ladies and gentlemen, dropping wisdom bombs left and right on us. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us. I think for outlining the opportunity and the technology. I think this is really fascinating stuff. Really going to be some interesting moves in this space in the coming years. And like you said, tons of opportunity. So if this is something that's interesting to you guys, think about how you build some service around this, some value. It's not about the equipment, whether, and this is so true to any pace, like whether a photographer, I mean, what Grant was talking about too, everybody that's getting into it, it doesn't understand that they're pricing too cheaply. And then the pros are like complaining that they're driving the pricing down. That is a common thing. So value yourself, think about some, business structure around the thing, be practical about it. It's not just about
always
how do I pay for my equipment. It's how do I create a sustainable business long-term and good service to my customers. This has been an awesome. Oh, go ahead.
You can reach out if you have questions. Reach out.
And there it was. And I realize now I forgot to put your tag. You are at 3D Musketeers. I forgot the little @ symbol on your lower third. So links in the description, guys. Feel free to reach out to any of us with any questions. And we thank you for joining us. Another awesome episode in the can of Maker That Money. We look forward to seeing you guys at a future episode. We'll catch you next Friday. That would be 19 plus 7, the 26th. Live here on the YouTubes, as always, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, everybody have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Keep making awesome. See you guys later.